Screw 616. Fuck Earth Prime. This season, we're going multiversal. Super Nerdland brings you graded .5.
Hey everybody, welcome to Back Issues. I'm your host Jason. With me tonight are Daryl.
Yo.
Wayne.
Yeah.
And Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, Dick.
Oh, hey, sorry. I forgot to put on push to talk. My bad. I totally spaced out on that.
We're off to a great start.
Wow. Yeah. We've done some Marvel stuff, and let's be honest, it didn't come out looking too good overall.
It was soul-shattering, dude.
Yeah, so I figured we did 2 Marvel, let's do 2 DC. And I've already picked out 2 in advance. We read 1. And that was JLA The Nail.
He had to check his show notes for the title.
Actually, no. What I was looking at was if it was had Elseworld in the title.
It does.
It's on the side. It's not,
It's on the back cover. Mentions that it's an Elseworlds thing.
And also, this is and considering when this came, so I can get a publication thing on it real quick.
August, October of 98.
Yep, 1998. Only 3 issues. It seemed bigger than that.
Well, there were like 3 deluxe edition size issues.
Yeah, but it almost felt like an 8-issue miniseries the way it flowed and everything.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was 6.
It's only 3. Yeah, I mean, it's like that was amazing about it. But
I feel like it did a really good job of covering all the ground of the story without being too long, also.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I thought it was 6 because I'm looking for points where it feels like an issue could have ended right there.
Yeah. Well, imagine me, because I'm like I said, y'all. Well, I ain't gonna say how y'all read yours, but
With my eyes, mostly.
Yeah, well, I read mine through with a trade paperback, and it literally has no break. So,
Yeah.
Well, there are parts that feel like a break, though. You know what I mean? Like, But yeah, it's not overt or anything like that.
Right.
Well, yeah.
But the most important thing I thought about the story, though, the 3-issue format was that it let the story breathe. So that was cool. I mean, it had time to develop, which is, a criticism I've had of the What Ifs. They felt too truncated, trying to move the story to its conclusion
in
22 pages.
Yeah,
or
22 pages. Yeah.
Yeah. So this book, one of its strengths is it was given time to get where it needed to go without having to force it.
Yeah, this was Alan Davis on, writing and art?
Yep.
And then Mark Farmer on colors, was it?
Probably.
Yeah, Mark Farmer on colors and... Yeah, colorist.
I just want to say that this issue is gorgeous. The art is beautiful in pretty much every single panel. There's not a single one that I don't like, and I like all of the representations here. It's all the classic Justice League, and they all look very sharp and clean, and,
Yeah, none of the characters are off-model or anything. It's all... The art's great.
Let's get to what makes this an Elseworlds.
Yeah.
Back when Superman... Kal-El's pod thing crashed into Earth, the Kents got a nail in their tire, and they decide not to go out.
When they would have met the baby
Kal-El, yeah.
Kal-El, so they missed that whole thing. So they're in this world as it stands at this very point, and at the beginning of the series, there is no Superman.
No Clark Kent.
No Clark Kent, no Superman.
And strangely enough, it goes to present day, and shit's actually pretty good even without Superman.
Yep.
Like, let's start with the small things, like Perry White's running a news network.
Mm-hmm.
Lois Lane is like an award-winning reporter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jimmy Olsen's the deputy mayor, and Lex Luthor is the mayor.
Fucking Mayor Luthor.
Yeah, of Metropolis.
Yeah, and the city is like its most prosperous under his leadership.
Virtually no crime. public health is at an all-time high, education rates are at an all-time high. It's honestly a fucking utopia, and that's what always has bugged me about Superman, is would Lex Luthor running it really be such a fucking bad thing?
Well, in this story, no.
But
For the common man, I'm saying.
well, considering who, we'll get to that in a little bit, but considering who the actual villain is, Lex is like secondary to all that pretty much.
But I'm saying like a legitimate fucking would
to bring in another kind of Elseworlds, was it that Superman that they did a few All-Star Superman.
Oh yeah.
And you remember what Lex said to Clark Kent? He said, I am a genius. I could literally cure cancer right now. He says, in fact, I've pretty much done it in my head. It's done. But I cannot do it as long as Superman lives.
Mm-hmm.
That, so you take that from that and put it there. You're like, does he really make the world a better place? That's
right.
Maybe. But anyway.
Right? But yeah.
So, book starts off. We got Perry White interviewing Jimmy Olsen because Lex Luthor has just won re-election as mayor, and people are kind of clamoring for him to run for president and things like that. And they start talking about like superheroes. They talk about like the Justice Society and back things from the past and whatnot. And then it kind of dovetails. I think you'll notice this too. Starts dovetailing into a bit of xenophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Because they talk about I'm just looking at it right now. Even says we assume I'm just reading directly from it. We assumed they were human, like the Golden Age heroes, gifted super powerful humans. And then it goes and then we get the but. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But, and he says, Aquaman claims to be hereditary sovereign of the oceans. Hawkwoman is believed to originate from the planet Thanagar. Green Lantern, who wields the most awesome power, is an agent of an alien police force. Then, of course, you got Manhunter, and then Batman. Nobody knows who Batman is, apparently. Well, he's Batman.
But they do wonder if he's human or demon.
Yeah. I wonder if he's alien or human or demon.
Yeah, that's
alien or demon. We can only speculate. Yeah. And then, of course, they talk about Green Arrow, which I like considering how the story dovetails to make like Green Arrow like he's,
right. They frame him in such a way where you think he's going to be the villain.
Right. Because during one of the fights with Amazo, Hawkman gets killed, and basically Oliver Queen gets paralyzed and handicapped and
loses an arm
and
an eye.
And becomes really old.
Yeah.
Like he aged like 30 years between panels essentially. But I guess that because we as they say how they say you wear and tear from depression and things like that will make you appear older than you actually are and whatnot. So right. I'm not blaming.
Not to mention that though, but in the framework of the story that the art was trying to tell, he was made to look crazy and look ragged and shit. So you would think he was the villain.
Yeah, that's the thing about this one. This one keeps you guessing until the end.
Right.
Yeah, you got a really interesting lineup for the Justice League, considering it's just close enough to the main, like 7 or 8 you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
You got Manhunter, Aquaman, Flash, Batman, Hal Jordan, Wonder Woman, and Hawkwoman.
And Adam.
Dead. And Adam, yeah. Adam is like... Actually, I think he kind of shines in this book.
Oh, yeah. Adam is a...
Like,
there's some interesting use of his powers for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's just like they're doing the normal Justice League squabble, and it's just playing into insecurities and bullshit, and it's kind of hold on a sec. It's kind of weird seeing the Justice League fight over social issues in a way that isn't ham-fisted as fuck.
Right.
Yeah. 1998. What a beautiful time.
Right.
Let's just let this line from Wonder Woman, which I think perfectly, puts this in perspective, considering who's in the background when she's saying this, and of course, it's Batman.
Right.
When we formed the League, we agreed to honor the secret identities of those who chose to use one, but mask anonymity can be used to characterize us as vigilantes and monsters. It is not enough for us to vanquish evil. We must be untainted symbols of good to inspire humanity. Doesn't that sound kind of familiar?
Yeah.
Like anonymity, obviously it can't be good because you could just be an evil alien or something,
Right. But it's good stuff. I mean, it's written in a way that it doesn't come across as preachy and shit. And
And the thing is, it's not even just alien though. They fucking shun Aquaman, and he's a terrestrial being.
Yeah, but because he claims to be, well, he is, but he, in the humanity's eyes, he claims that he's the sovereign of the, that the oceans. Like, wait, really? But this guy, he got a little touched. he got a. Because what they say, what does he say? He calls it. They say it's like a. Oh yeah, he said you sound. I'm talking about Flash, and he said truly human. And he said you sound like those bigots who call me Fishman. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and continue with the plot.
But anyway, and essentially, like you said, they're having a little bickering and stuff like that. And one of the issues is like the way Wonder Woman was dressed, where Wonder Woman's always had a patriotic bent to her outfit. And of course, this one's a little more. I would say a little more patriotic-y than usual. And she said it was a ceremonial Amazon garb that she wore to a reception at the White House. And they kind of had a fit about that because they had basically saying that if they're defending justice, it's not just the justice of the United States or the politicians and shit. It is the entire everybody.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then we go on to what?
Of course, Batman. Yeah,
Batman comes in and puts his foot down like only Batman can.
Right.
It's literally like before just kind of I'm not skipping because I don't want to skip too far, but it literally goes to like by the end of this he's like I'm going back to Gotham, fuck y'all,
Yeah.
It's like so being Batman essentially.
You're right.
Like,
but here he's kind of trying to be the voice of reason in a way, and he's saying if Green Lantern's suspicions are correct, this is exactly what they would have wanted, divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which I find it funny, like the idea is to hire a publicist.
Right.
And of course, it's Lois fucking Lane.
Which, by the way, best haircut Lois has ever had.
Right.
I don't know what it is about that version of Lois, but I love that freaking haircut.
I know a dude with that same haircut.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay. Where are we going from here?
But the reason why they got Lois involved is because she is a trusted person. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner. She's had, I
don't think they actually say Pulitzer Prize, oddly enough.
Well, they say countless awards in the process. You can assume that Lois won the Pulitzer Prize.
Right.
Yeah. She's responsible for major exposés and reported for war zones, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, she's a trusted voice in the public.
Right.
And that's why they want to get her involved in it. And then we fade to a mission, apparently, with the, who are these guys again?
Outsiders.
The Outsiders, yeah. Which, not led by Batman, obviously.
Led by Dinah Lance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Black Canary.
The far more sexy Dinah Lance.
Mm-hmm. Which she had originally, you found out she had formed the team for Ollie to be a part of.
Yeah, as a leader.
Yeah, but he didn't want no part of it. So, and I like, looking at this image. We were talking about the artwork, which, like I said, is fantastic. But just seeing like Black Lightning is like, dude, we stepped from the 90s back into the 70s. It's fucking amazing.
It's weird. Like looking at like him, Katana, and I don't know the guy in the middle. Because I don't. It's Shade.
Yeah, they call him Shade. I'd have to look more into that because I don't remember him.
But it's like he looks like the 80s. Like fucking Jack Kirk. Well, actually, looks 70s too, kind of, but 80s version, like the the Eternals.
Yeah.
Katana looks like 90s contemporary stuff. It's just like a weird transition from the 70s to the 90s.
Yeah.
All in one panel.
And then you get to Black Canary on the next panel, and it's like now we're in the 60s.
I'm okay with the 60s.
I mean, that's because of the fishnets and all that stuff. That's why.
But yeah, she's leading this team on Ollie's behalf, and we find out that Ollie left because he felt kind of like he was a mascot, like he was just a figurehead. So he took off, and they hadn't seen him, or Dinah hasn't seen him in months. And they continue on their
mission is to find Metamorpho because he has dropped off communication.
And he found out the plane's being driven by Geoforce.
Yeah.
From the original Outsiders.
Which at this point, he is the strongest man in the on Earth at this point because there's no Superman. So
that is true. Yep. Holy shit!
In fact, they mentioned that a little later in here. So
let's fast forward a little bit to one of the interesting scenes.
Okay.
Catwoman's talking to a guy in Arkham. I'm not sure what the point of that was, but as she's talking to him, the Joker breaks in with these power gauntlets. And if you look at them in retrospect, knowing that what we know about the end, it seems obvious where they came from.
Yeah.
What they were inspired by, what technology they were inspired by anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, he breaks in, kills a bunch of the inmates and shit, and Batman shows up to fight him, to bring him down. And of course, actually, I did want to mention in the middle of this, there's some introspection with the Justice League members, like Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter, for example, and they're kind of talking about what this hysteria is doing and shit. And then, like John, he wants to go off and out of the public eye for a while because he feels like his appearance is creating kind of xenophobia and stuff, and he's not really cool with that. So, these various characters, they go about doing this stuff, like Aquaman decides to return to the sea and just focus his efforts there and shit like that. So, but then we cut back to the Arkham and
well, dude, you missed.
Oh wait, I'm missing a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
there's actually a lot of story building. I don't want to go too in depth with it though, because it does kind of inform the end.
Let's power through this shit. I got this shit.
All right.
So metahumans start going missing left and right, captured or eliminated.
Yeah.
Like sects of villains are pitted against each other to eliminate them from the board.
Right.
Like the League of Assassins, Gotham Underworld style people, Cobra, who at that time was a world power.
Rod's Gorilla City.
Yeah, Gorilla City, and a bunch of these other places are just getting eliminated one by one. And, like the Doom Patrol gets yanked. Really big fight scene for that was kind of weird. But, the Outsiders get yanked. So Joker,
and Beast Boy's still a member of the Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
At this point.
They killed Negative Man, essentially.
Yeah.
And
down.
And Robot Man.
Yep.
Melted his ass.
Oh, yeah, they did kill me. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Joker goes nuts and liberates Arkham Asylum.
Yeah. Kills a bunch of people out there.
I'm just gonna say, obviously Kryptonian inspired gauntlet thingies.
Yeah. Right. And it seemed, okay, Batman shows up, and they
There's
fight.
a big old dome around the place that only Batman, Robin, and Batgirl can get through.
Yeah, I wonder what that means.
Yeah, keyed to biosignatures. Ooh, advanced alien technology.
Right. And not only that, but like only those three can come in. I wonder why. But yeah, Batman shows up, and before going in, he tells Batgirl and Robin to kick back and let him handle it. And so, as Batman's fighting the Joker, of course, who should show up but the two people he told to kick rocks, and Joker kills him, just straight up,
slowly too.
Yeah, and makes Batman watch the entire time.
Holds his eyes open.
Yep.
And
probably the most ruthless we've ever seen the Joker.
Right. And then, like, in the middle of that, though, we do cut to some stuff on Apocalypse that, just it established that shit was going on up there, but didn't really seem to be too...
Well, let's not forget there's an invisible force field around Earth.
Right, and that's what it is. That's what these several pages seem to establish, is that, this invasion by Apocalypse couldn't happen because of the dome,
Yeah. Whatever's going on is terrestrial,
right.
essentially.
But then we come back to the Joker.
Yeah.
And Batman fights him on the roof of Arkham. Classic fucking scene, Yep. And snaps his goddamn neck.
Right. And it turns out that was all captured on camera.
And so they start blaming Batman for everybody in Arkham dying, and literally everyone in Arkham died.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the place blew up after he got out of there and shit. It burned. And, it kind of seems weird.
I missed one survivor, Catwoman.
Yeah.
Right.
So Bruce grabs Catwoman and retreats. Because the cops are now after him, except for Commissioner Harvey Bullock.
Right.
Another interesting difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Gordon had been
Gordon died. Yeah. And Bullock's just like, I'm not taking the shit. His speech bubble is filled with censorship.
What's interesting? Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay, but what's interesting, in looking at the grand scheme of this all, you mentioned Apocalypse a minute ago. What was interesting, it was whoever is the string puller, made a situation where a boom tube collapsed while they were trying, while the Darkseid was trying to do some shenanigans.
Right.
And by their thinking, there's only a few people who could do that. And they're all in New Genesis.
Being one of them?
Yeah, and they're all in New Genesis, essentially.
Right.
And so, essentially, like, Metron goes, and he's, trying to see what, he said, maybe we can figure out what's going on. I'm here to offer you my aid. And Darkseid's having none of it and blasts the shit out of him, which I've never seen that happen to Metron before. And so now New Genesis and Apocalypse are at war. That takes them off the chessboard.
Right. Yeah, they're not attacking Earth anytime soon because they're too busy fighting each other.
Right.
So that is one, huge consequence, and in this case, a positive consequence of Superman not being in the picture.
Right.
But one of the only positive consequences, I think, aside from Luthor's effect on Metropolis,
Yep.
Which, given what we find out later, might not have been entirely him.
So, yeah. Metamorpho is brainwashed into killing the Thinker. Perry White winds up dying trying tell Martian Manhunter what happened. That was kind of weird. This is like, Perry White's always, even without Superman on the fucking chessboard, Perry White's always there.
Yeah.
Just to kill him, it's like, damn, dude.
That's showing you this this new world they're building here. What I mean? Like, anything's on the table. And
Flash saves Ra's al Ghul because there was Amazo was attacking. Like, vibrates his brain right out of his head.
Guys, that was pretty badass. That's
yeah, it's a robot, but on the other hand, you just literally removed a dude's brain.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
he does one of the most hardcore kills that the Flash has made.
And the only weird piece of art I've seen in this book so far, in the last panel of that page, Ra's al Ghul's the left side of his mustache totally gone. But no, I mean, he saves the League and Ra's, and then there's more world building stuff, more character building stuff, and actually a really cool shot of the Batmite encased in crystal. But,
and one of the cooler scenes is a little later. Like I said, the more as I said, pieces on the chessboard. The Guardians recall the entire Lantern Corps. Mm-hmm. That's all 3,600 Green Lanterns, except for Hal Jordan, obviously, because he's stuck on Earth. And the whole reason they're there is because they originally thought they were going to try to help, Hal. And then they say, then the Guardians tell them, no, we have to deal with this, war between New Genesis and Apocalypse, and whatever's going on with Hal Jordan, he's going to have to fend for himself.
Right. Oh, and as a consequence of this Earth Shield, he can't recharge his. He can recharge, but
he just can't recharge it to a full.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's in a weakened state.
His battery's lost at 0 point.
Yeah.
Hate to make that analogy. Yeah. So Wonder Woman goes to the White House to try to meet the president and be like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
What are you doing, you fucking retard?
Yeah.
And the White House goes under attack and blows up.
Yeah, but before that, though, there's some more stuff like it's showing how the anti-metahuman hysteria is kind of taken hold. They want to test her to see if she's human stuff, and she flat out refuses and fucks off, and that's when the joint explodes. And she, of course, rushes in to see if there's any survivors and stuff, and what should happen? But, there's convenient cameras on her, and so everything is recorded and shit, and then some guys come and pick her up. Was that one guy?
Wasn't it the Metal Men originally, and she kind of beat their asses?
Well, they ended up dying, right?
Yeah.
In the fight, and it was more of a consequence of their blind firing and stupidity and shit, and her, not being able to, direct where the deflections from her bracelets go and stuff like that. But yeah, they all end up fucked off, and so this is all recorded, so it looks like she and did some bad shit.
And Luthor takes control of the U.S.
Because that's what usually happens, right? The
chain of succession is so far decimated that it goes down to the mayor of Metropolis.
Right.
What gets me looking at the looking at the situation with Amazo when he attacked Ra's, is Ra's pretty much implies he knows who's behind it all, but he's not telling.
Right.
Which has always been that's kind of like his gimmick anyway,
Right. Being mysterious.
Yeah, he's like, I could probably help you out, but I'm not going to because fuck you,
Yeah, it's not in my best interest, or it doesn't benefit me, so figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But Luthor uses these flying masked robots that are totally robots, guys.
Totes.
So it's called the Liberators to basically enforce his law on the country. This includes fucking liberating, I guess, the Justice League. Liberating the shit out of the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Until there's only Batman, Flash, and Atom. And Batman is not all there.
Mm-mm. He does kind of recover a bit after Catwoman, talks to him and shit. But yeah, he's
dressed in the Robin costume.
Right. Hey. Best use of the Robin costume in a while. But yeah, he kind of comes to his senses and shit.
But yeah, Flash, I don't know how the hell he survived. Atom makes sense, Yeah. He can just shrink down and be like, fuck y'all, I'm gonna go riot an Atom somewhere.
Yeah. But he almost got in trouble.
Almost, but
Yeah.
he's always had that kind of escape artist thing going.
Yeah. That was his.
But to bring it back, we're kind of at the point where, like, it's revealed where that these supposed robots taking all the heroes down are actually Bizarro clones.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Bizarro clones in a world without Superman.
Right.
Which means that somebody has his DNA somehow.
Right. And it turns out that Lex Luthor, shortly after the Clark's ship crashed in Smallville, recovered it actually, and had developed technology and shit based on it, and he found a way to kind of use the DNA to, like, he wanted to. What was his goal on doing that? Like augmenting people. Got it. But he does it, and it doesn't work, except it works on one person.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So Lois Lane, investigates the anti-metahuman campaign and starts to find a conspiracy. So she goes to a metahuman research facility. Because let's go right into the conspiracy. And meets Dr. Lana Lang. And, they tour the facility, how they're holding all these metahumans. It's, basically a metahuman jail. Trying to figure out who's an alien and who's not. Fucking McCarthyism gone terribly wrong. Weird. But, on the way out, Lana goes, "You really want to know what's going on?" Lois is like, "Yeah." So they shake hands, and Lana drops a piece of paper in Lois's hand that says the Kent Farm. The truth is here, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Lois goes to Smallville to meet the Kents, who are basically running an underground railroad for people escaping the metahuman jail. Like Beast Boy's there, dude I didn't recognize. It was like Elongated Man. Kind of a weird little crew. But yeah. So Lois goes to Jimmy because, again, let's run directly into the conspiracy. Who reveals LexCorp had found the pod, reverse engineered as much as I could, etc. And found, the DNA, some of Kal-El's DNA in it, used those to make the Bizarro clones, and turned Jimmy himself into basically a cheap ripoff of the Eradicator.
Mm-hmm.
And a really weird mutated version of Crypto.
That's what really
Crypto Starro looked like?
Yeah.
Which was real. That's what really got you, because that's where you really think you think one is going one way and then they yank you another.
Right.
Because at one point when when you think it's just Starro attacking Martian Manhunter,
right,
you think, oh shit, this is a Starro plot.
Yeah.
And then it, like I said, it just how does Frank Kellyanne do it when he's doing when he's doing Robin Williams? It's like, just when you think you zig and you zag, you zig and you zag. And just when you think they're going to zag, zigs.
Yep. Yeah, because you see a couple times earlier on in the issue, or the book rather, that what seems to be Starro's presence, like some shadows and shit that suggestive of him, and then you see it's just fucking Crypto all fucked off.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, okay.
And I like the one, just to bring it back a little bit, I like the meeting that the mystics, the mystical heroes had. And fucking, so, you got Dr. Fate, Phantom Stranger, Etrigan, and Deadman all saying, we need to do something. And then the fucking Spectre shows up and is like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
He's like, why not? And he's like, the humans, they gotta figure this out themselves. We can't keep just coming to the rescue all the time, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it turns out Jimmy's endgame have been to imprison the metahumans and harvest their DNA in order to turn humans into Kryptonians.
Yeah.
so he can make a Kryptonian society that he runs.
Oh wait, is that Batgirl in the fucking classic or not Batgirl, but Catwoman in the classic Batgirl outfit?
Batwoman
outfit? Yeah. Ooh.
But dude, it's literally, apparently Superman's biggest fucking contribution to society was not turning Jimmy into a fucking crazy thing.
Right? being there for him and being that fucking positive role model in his life and shit, you know? Yeah, and without him there, Jimmy... Well, apparently the crux of this thing is that he fucking at one point wanted to join the Justice League and they rejected him. So he harbored some bitter hatred and then wanted to fuck them all up.
What I really like about this thing, too, is with the whole Jimmy thing, is it wraps up into this overreaching thing, you know, with, like, we need paragons of virtue as it is. And, like, we're near the end of the plot, so we already mentioned about what happens with Kal-El.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
You want to mention that real quick so Dick can get back to his point?
Do that shit. Okay. So, Justice League, destroy the Liberators and fucking, reminiscent of Superboy Prime, oddly enough, Jimmy shows up and starts whooping ass.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, whooping ass? Like,
yeah. Because he's got the powers of a Kryptonian, so...
Mm-hmm. Like, there's only a few that could actually stand up to him, but he's so amped at this point. Right. It's just, yeah.
And to go back to what we were talking about earlier, like, Lex actually found that shit, you know, the DNA and the ship and all that, and he had this plan to, like, you know, create, like, superhumans or something, I don't know. He was trying to graft Kryptonian DNA on humans, and it worked in Jimmy because of all the times he had been changed into a metahuman before.
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, he's a Kryptonian now, essentially. He's got all the powers and shit, and he fucks up the Justice League.
But their fight spills over into an Amish farming community.
Yeah, out in Smallville.
Yep.
Which is very Amish of the people, you know, they say what's going, you know, one of them says he's murdering him, this is wrong, and, you know, the guy's father says, no, son, you must not get involved.
Yeah.
You know, and then this, like, dude with the Amish beard shows up and grabs Jimmy by the hand and stops him.
And,
you know, just straight up. And then, Jimmy blasts him with his heat vision, and it's revealed that it's actually Kal-El.
Yep.
So Kal-El was found. He was just found by the Amish.
Yep. You didn't want him fucking
Which would make sense for them not to, when you think about this, considering how the Amish think, it would make sense that they wouldn't hide hide Superman's rocket.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to have anything to do with technology. They'll save a child, but they're not going to mess with technology. You know?
Right. Yeah, they'd leave that shit there and take the kid back. And,
yeah.
So, Jimmy attempts to get Superman to join him. Mm-hmm. And Superman's like, I ain't having that shit. You know, this has nothing to do with me. You know.
Right. And he does reveal that his superhuman senses, you know, detected, you know, evil in the world and shit like that, and he was always praying that someone else might stop these monsters, and now he can't deny his conscience or you know, so he's willing to take a stand now, this Amish Kal-El.
But what happened, the reason he really tried to go full bore was that Jimmy decided to kill his parents.
Yeah, so Jedediah and what's her name got flash fried by Jimmy's
Yeah. And then it just went full bore. You know, what would happen? It's basically what the Zod and Superman fight should have been.
in
Man of Steel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and it's huge. They're beating each other to a pulp so much that it causes like an electrical disturbance and shit.
Yeah.
It's like one character describes it as a hurricane and earthquake combined.
Mm-hmm.
he's. And then, of course, at the end of this fight,
I like one of the reactions. I'm looking at some of the reaction.
Yeah.
Like they're looking at this happening, and they said maybe we shouldn't be heading towards it. And people says, "No way, we got to see this. It's historic."
Yeah, and it is. Within the framework of the story, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And but at the end though, Superman or whoever this Amish Clark Kent is. At this point in the story, beats Jimmy down, and turns out that Jimmy actually didn't take to the DNA grafting or whatever as well as he thought.
Yeah. In fact, if you go back a few pages, you can see where, you can tell when the degradation starts because the word bubble changes.
Right.
And his speech becomes more stunted.
Right.
And that's a kind of a sign that, he's going bizarro, essentially.
And he does, and he tries to put up a fight for a little bit, but in the end, he just basically turns to dust.
Yeah. And his last words, he says, "We should have been friends."
Yeah,
that would be the only knock I have. And you know why?
They hit it on the nose too.
No. I would have said we should have been pals.
Oh,
yeah. Because that was the name. Yeah. Remember, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen was the name of the comic back in the 60s. Right. So I think that would have been more on the nose than friends.
Yeah, but at the same time, pals, I thought the line was a little too on the nose because that is essentially what this story is about.
Yeah.
In a world where they aren't friends, Jimmy turns into a fucking supervillain. Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess if they had to write that, it would have been better to be a little bit more referential.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Jimmy's dead now, and then the Guardians show up because I guess the shit that Ray was doing, or not, Ray, the Atom was doing earlier, knocked the shield down and shit. So now they can come. But basically, this part ends with Superman kind of standing over his parents' charred corpses and and shit, and then Jonathan and Martha show up, the Kents.
Yep.
And it's kind of implied heavily that they take him in at this point in his life. And there's some dialogue here to wrap it up, and then a nice montage with Superman. He became Superman.
And then you find out the ones we thought died didn't really die. Like Negative Man's still alive, so is Robot Man. From
right.
Yeah, it was just they were incapacitated, but they didn't tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
when I think somebody gets stabbed in the chest and gets dispersed, I kind of think that for an energy being, I think it's kind of death.
Right.
What I think is interesting, honestly, is that Batman gets acquitted of killing Joker. They call it a death in war,
an act of war,
an act of war during death during an act of war. Yeah,
right.
But he because he being, which is why I always said that's why I found Batman always a fascinating character. That if he did do something like that, that's exactly what he would do.
Right. So he still continued to be a hero, and it was an act of attrition, essentially. Yeah. He was like, I'm paying for this with being
my penance is to keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm not going to be a part of the League anymore.
Right.
Kind of thing.
But he still goes around with Batwoman.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's implied that Bruce and Felicia stay together, and that's the only thing he really has going for him.
Yeah.
Aside from Alfred, But yeah,
I always find it funny. Alfred always survives.
Yes, yeah. He was never in any danger in this book.
Yeah, exactly.
But this splash page this splash panel on the next to last page, it's got all the heroes there and shit, and Martha hugging Superman while Jonathan kind of stands over him and shit. It's a beautiful fucking panel.
And hey,
gorgeous.
And once again, still better than Man of Steel.
Right. But I mean, the artwork is great, and just the emotional shit this panel takes you through. Just that one panel, man.
Mm-hmm. And then that last panel.
Yeah, right.
The last panel basically says it still comes around.
Right.
It just took a little longer.
We've got the reformed Justice League with Superman. This Amish Superman.
Yep. Oh god. I just to mention, like in the trade paperback, there's this thing on the back. You know, they talk about the artwork. It's basically Alan Davis like going around, you know, talking about how he came up with the designs for this and everything. And like but the title of it is Barry Allen has a big head and a skinny neck.
Oh shit. But yeah,
that's the title of the back of the book. That's like that's perfect.
But yeah, why don't we talk about what we thought of this issue, guys? Because we've spent almost an hour just talking about the issue itself.
Okay, one of the first things I want to touch on is the whole story arc with Jimmy and everything, and needing a pal and everything. It ties into the overall arcing thing of that humanity needs heroes, but there needs to be a perfect hero, and Superman kind of fills that role because he's a paragon of justice.
Yeah, and somebody makes a quip in the book about being, you know, I think it was Diana, right? About being a symbol of truth and justice.
Yeah, and she failed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, these themes are definitely in play, you know, and honestly, it's probably one of the best uses of Superman I've seen in a comic for a while, because a lot of Superman for me, and this is just my personal opinion, it feels too cut and dry with a lot of the stuff that Superman's in, like his main comics and stuff. But maybe that's just me. He's a little too simple of a hero. Well, that's the thing, though. When you have a character that is essentially, aside from his vulnerability to magic and kryptonite, invincible, it does kind of take the a lot of the appeal to the reader away, I suppose, because he's not somebody you can relate to, really. You know,
but it also comes down to, and like I said, you know, comics come down to writing, no matter what.
Right. And this is a good example of.
Yeah, exactly. And if you know, we could talk about like we were, you know, the extent of Superman's powers is pretty well known. I mean, after you thinking about we're getting close to 100 years of Superman when you really get to thinking about this. You know,
oh god,
yeah. When you really think about that, we're, you know, in like 20 years, we'll be pretty much 100 years of Superman. You know, and in that time, you've had good writers and you had bad writers. I've always liked, and you know, and of course, the depowering up, you know, when they depower Superman, those are interesting. I'm not saying they're not, but sure. I like the ones where Superman will get the shit kicked out of him at full power.
Right.
And because that means that the writer thought outside the box and is like, I know how to stop him.
Exactly. And not to mention there are stakes.
Yeah.
You know?
Because what's the point of like going up? It's kind of like, you know, what's the point of trying to kill something that cannot die? You know?
Right.
I mean, y'all remember, you know, give a little humor here.
Sure.
You remember that series, Ask a Ninja? It was like a thing. It was like the early 2000s, and they did a question and answer one time, and they asked like his grandfather came on the thing, and he says like, I'm talking about back in my day, everything was immortal. And he said, hey, you know how hard it is to kill something that cannot die? You got to defy reality herself. So,
but I think
go ahead.
I was going to say the thing that I really loved about this story is that it was a very human story, and you know, even though it's a JLA story by title, it felt like a Superman story, but more importantly, it felt like a human story in the way that it was all predicated on Jimmy Olsen's feelings of rejection and loneliness in that world without Superman. Mm-hmm. So it was a great use of Superman simply because, you know, it really did an effective job of showing his influence on the world. Yeah. You know, like you said, you know, even just the fight between Apocalypse and but yeah, even just showing those tangential effects of his, you know, his absence and shit, you know, it was a very human story, you know, through and through, and that's what I really dug about it, you know, and it, but most importantly for me though, it did what those short one-off what ifs couldn't do, which was tell a story, you know, in the time it needed to tell it, and be really thorough with it, and kind of build this more interesting world and shit. So it was good. I really enjoyed reading it.
Right.
So,
Like I said, it's been one of my top 10 Elseworlds, like Elseworlds / What Ifs for a long, long time. And that's, I've always, I always enjoyed it. I always like going back and reading it. It's, it's that good, I would like to read, believe it or not, I've never read the sequel. There's a sequel called Another Nail, and I've never read it, and I'd like to read that sometime. But
I know nothing about the other. I don't think
the synopsis I read, though, it doesn't seem like quite as much of a must-read as this one.
Oh, it's not a must-read because they're, basically it's
capitalizing on the success.
Yeah, and Superman, he's finding his footing as a hero, that kind of thing.
Right. But it becomes a Batman story by the end.
Oh, of course it does.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah,
Yeah. I think this was a lightning in a bottle type situation. One of those, where the right combination of artist and writer came together to tell a really good story.
When this came out, one of my friends he had just opened a comic book shop. And what was really interesting was this came through the Diamond solicitations, right? And when we read about it, we were like, whoa, that's going to be good. We already thought that was going to be, it's like, this is going to be good, because it's a very, the premise was like very interesting. A world without Superman,
Right.
And it's like, what happens? And essentially, a lot of things still go along like they were supposed to, like, how Jordan still becomes Green Lantern, etc. John Jones still comes to Earth and becomes the Martian Manhunter. Wonder Woman still comes from Paradise and, becomes the ambassador to the, man's world, blah, blah, blah. But that one hook, that one little thing changed so much. Just one nail. That's what was really, when it's called the nail, it's literally a nail. Yeah. Changed so much,
And that was the great thing about it, though, too, is though Superman's absence did have these effects, it wasn't overboard. It wasn't like Flashpoint, for example, where, Barry Allen going back and changing this one thing had this huge, wide-reaching effect, almost world-ending effect. Things continued on as they would have. So, like, Superman's presence is important, absolutely, but it's not this thing where the Justice League doesn't get formed and shit like that. So it was really cool in that respect to see the effects were minute.
Yeah, the one thing I liked in that was that I've always found interesting is no matter what, because it obviously precedes him, that there's always a Justice Society. And then there's always a Justice League because they're the carryover to the Justice Society.
Right, the progenitors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That would be an interesting story one day. What happens if there was no Justice Society to pave the way, essentially?
Yeah, I wonder if anybody's played with that.
I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah. But no, Jason, what did you think, man?
Oh, dude, I read this back in the early 2000s. This is like the second or third time I've read it.
It holds up, huh?
Yeah, and I still forget half of what goes on.
Well,
it's so dense.
Yeah, and it really is. It really is.
What's really good, and you got to say what's good about this, because Jason and I were talking about the soon-to-be upcoming animated stuff coming out from DC.
Oh yeah,
they could do this one. Yeah, they could do this one right here, not had any filler. They don't have to add a fucking intro to the beginning. They don't have to add, this has got so much shit. They'd have to cut shit.
Well, I'd say give it the Dark Knight treatment, the Dark Knight Returns treatment. Yes, exactly.
Or just do a full theatrical release.
Oh yeah, to make it like a 2.5 hour full release. Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking about that the whole time I was reading it. I was like, I would love them to do, especially given kind of the weak last few entries. I did like Batman and Harley Quinn, but the stuff they've adapted lately has been kind of weak. Like the Killing Joke in particular. I mean, Jason and I think you were really looking forward to this. And
could have done without the first 30 minutes.
Yeah,
if that first 30 minutes wasn't there, it would have been great.
Right.
They did not need that.
Right, and I would like to see them to give this a shot because I think it would be a compelling story.
At the very least, it deserves what Dark Knight Returns got.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like like I said, not only like I'll go ahead and say it, not only one of the best Elseworlds, probably one of the best DC stories,
and one of the better Justice League stories too.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, there was some good stuff. I can't remember the writer's name now. The Tower of Babel, was it?
That would be Grant Morrison that wrote.
Yeah, there was some good stuff around then.
Yeah.
See, like, the thing for me with this and how good this is I don't normally like DC stuff, and this made me like DC stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And the great thing,
this puts you. This takes you. This is the kid. This is like the kid opening up in the first. And you're like,
right.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the great thing about this story, though, is like if you're approaching it from the beginner's kind of standpoint, like Dick was, you don't have to know the history of these characters for it to still be a good story in its own right.
Right.
I mean, that enhances it, absolutely, but all you have to know is that Superman was around and that he was friends with Jimmy Olsen, those two basic facts, that almost every lay person kind of knows about Jimmy, or not Jimmy, but Superman, rather, just on the basis of his, pop culture icon kind of, status and shit, but you don't have to know these things, these characters and who they are, and see the
pretty
impacts.
Much in the first 8 pages. They establish enough of the world to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in a film, that would be what, maybe 5 minutes?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, don't do a Philip J. Fry. It took me 30 minutes. Took me 30 minutes to write. It means it should take 30 minutes to read, right? So.
Single female lawyer. But no, that was the cool thing, Dick, too, is just that it is appealing to folks like you who are either not a fan of DC or just never found anything to connect there. It's a solid story in its
Okay,
own
let me
way.
ask a question. This would be an interesting question. Because I like to this. Okay, if you were going to, Dick, like, say, I'm going to the comic book shop, and let's say we're going to pick up some older issues and stuff, and you want to read up on, let's say, take the League out of it. Which character in here would you want to know more about just from reading this book?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Probably like Martian Manhunter and Hawkwoman and Hawkman, really.
Well, Hawkman's dead.
Well, yeah.
We're saying like,
just in main continuity and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Who would you want to know more about?
They seemed very interesting. They're heroes that I heard of, but I've never seen more of their stuff. I haven't read any of their stuff, and I don't think they really were as big as somebody like Batman or Superman, someone that has that sort of mainstream appeal. And it kind of brought up the fact that these are different, interesting characters that I didn't even realize DC had these sorts of designs and stuff. To be perfectly honest, I'm very not well versed in DC, so it was interesting to see some of the weirder places that the creative process has gone, because when I think DC, I think Detective Comics, I think Batman, I think Superman, I think Justice League.
Right. You don't really think about the periphery until...
And they've got a rich periphery.
Yeah. That's like one of the... I mean, and you pretty much, like, nail head, pretty much. Another pun, ha. Especially you mentioned Manhunter, because you know how upset I am that in the movies and all this other stuff that's come out, we're just ignoring John Jones.
Martian Manhunter. Yeah.
We're just, he is probably, and honestly, one of the more interesting characters in DC.
Well, they are hinting, though, that because there's a unrevealed character that might be joining the Justice League.
Oh, well, we'll see. In
the course of Justice League, they might actually, rescue John from...
It'll probably be D-Man or something.
Oh, God. It is Marvel, but it'll be D-Man anyway.
Yeah, it'll be D-Man. They work the trade out. It's like Marvel gets fucking... They needed another cosmic hero, so they get like fucking... Orion, and they got D-Man.
Oh, shit.
We're rescuing this street person.
That was D-Man. That was what he was, wasn't it?
Yeah. D-Man was pretty much a street person, yeah.
Oh, fuck. I don't know what we were just talking about, but...
We're talking about, like, how they, ignoring characters and characters who have interesting stories and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That is a rumor about the flick.
What if we could get a trade like that, though?
Oh, like a trade, like a superhero trade, like
Yeah.
Are we ever, speaking of that, are we ever gonna do Amalgam? Not the stuff leading up to it, but the actual run.
At some point, hopefully.
Yeah, because that's
Cool.
like all the big what if Elseworlds type thing. So
I just, I did enjoy it though. There was some good stuff in there. But anyway, sorry for interrupting.
I would totally trade like Starman for D-Man.
Starman.
Starman and Star-Lord, man.
Yeah. Fighting over the name.
No, just like side by side kind of thing.
Why does D-Man sound like a fucking porn star name? Yeah. All right, so
Wow.
did we cover? Hey, Wayne, did you mention what you thought about it yet?
Uh-oh. Wayne died.
Oh no!
Wayne down. Wayne down.
No, I had a phone call. Sorry, I didn't want
Oh shit! No, I was saying, did you get to mention how you? I mean, because you actually own the physical copy of the trade paperback and shit. So, what'd you think of the whole thing, man?
Like I said, I mean, absolutely one of my top 10. Probably I'll say number one. I mean, number two. Let me get number two because I would say Dark Knight is above this. Barely. But you know.
Well, yeah, even I have a copy of Dark Knight.
Yeah, so I would say this is like, you know, top 2 and probably top 5 of my favorite DC stories, you know.
What do you think about I mean, what's your thoughts on the way the story played out and kind of what your favorite moments in it?
It takes you for a ride because, like I said, you know, one thing you're going one way and then it goes another because you think, oh, it's going to be Lex. Oh, it's actually Starro. Oh, it's Jimmy Olsen.
Olsen, yeah.
You know, so.
Now, I did kind of predict it, though, just because of his prominence at the beginning and the fact that they focused on his multi-powered, cast.
And Jimmy Olsen's the fucking Eradicator for some reason.
Right. Well, to be fair, though, he kind of did look like the Eradicator, but it was traditional Kryptonian garb, wasn't it? I don't know. I don't read comics.
Man, that's pretty much like, I think that was kind of what they looked like, the Kryptonian guard after Man of Steel.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm thinking back to some stuff that Dan Jurgens wrote, and I think what's his name? God damn it! Oh God, I can't remember. John Byrne.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the depiction of Kryptonians in that was really similar.
Yeah. John Byrne. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Man of Steel, the original. You know, like.
Oh, you're talking about the book, not the fucking movie. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the stupid flick. He's getting called again. He's answering a literal call to arms.
His people need him.
Yeah. What people is that? Is that half Transformer, half? Which half needs him the most? Do you think the half Deadpool or the half Transformer?
He's going to Cybertron, bitch.
Oh shit! Gonna go Deadpool on those fucking Decepticons. Why are we stretching this out? Why are we doing this bit in the middle of the show?
I don't know. Fuck it. You know what? Go to your local comic shop, pick up a copy of JLA the Nail.
Yeah, and if you like this show, follow us on the Twatters at graded 0.5.
Well, no. There's no... It's just graded 0.5.
Oh, there's no 0?
No 0.
It's not like I follow that account. But but yeah, follow us on Twitter. Give some of our back episodes a listen, and try not to let it destroy your faith in humanity. It probably. It does mine every time I listen to it, which is very rarely because I hate the sound of my own voice, even though I'm talking a lot.
And come back next week or whenever we release again.
Or whenever we get around to it, if we do, maybe, if we don't die first.
Oh, shit. Now I think I'm going to die.
It could happen.
Well, anything could happen, including our inevitable deaths, yes.
But you know what's going to happen right now?
You're ending the show.
Yep.